So when you work on this and fix it, perfect. But until that, I can't keep nursing your tantrums, or I can't keep accepting your unacceptable behavior. That kind of way of relaying your boundaries without being without punishing the woman is very attractive.
Yeah, in a way, that's a sign of a man not respecting himself, which
Yeah.
is unattractive. If they're going to allow certain behavior that women often sometimes do test the boundaries of.
We all do. And look, initially it feels like love. When we are so rude and so disrespectful and so bad and you forgive us, it feels like, oh, he must really love you.
Yeah, very accepting.
But later it feels like he doesn't love himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it quickly turns to, oh, he must really love me, to, oh, he must not really love himself. And if he doesn't love himself, how can I love him?
Do you think there needs to be a true leader in the relationship? And of course, they both, men and women, the dynamics might need different aspects within the partnership. Mm-hmm. But in terms of like where we're going, do you feel like there needs to be a clear individual there?
There should be a clear leader. Of course, I would say a masculine leader should be there, but that leadership should be earned, not given, simply assigned by gender. And what I mean by that is, let's say I'm in a relationship with a man and he's like, I'm the leader, I'm the boss, you have to follow me. But he's dumb as a doornail, doesn't know what's going on, and he's, useless. But because he's a man, he thinks he owns it. And a lot of men do this. I'm the man, so you have to listen to me and you have to submit to me. But the submission comes from us seeing that you are a natural leader. And how we know you're a great leader is you make good decisions for you, me, and both of us long term. You make good decisions for us. But if you're not a good decision maker, if you're not a good problem solver, if you have no self-control, how can we just trust your leadership? So have that self-control, have that, problem solving mentality. And as a result, we will naturally let you lead. But just leading because you're the man won't work. Yeah, it will just make you insufferable.
So on that note, then what's one thing that you feel like after working with so many individuals and couples that women really don't understand a man truly desires and needs in partnership?
He needs sex a lot more than we want and need and care for. Yeah, it's really, really I feel like
a lot of women
important.
Might disagree with that and say that sometimes they're the ones that want.
Yes, more. I do agree. But even in those cases where they feel like their man doesn't want it as much, he might be turning to pornography. He might be outsourcing it. I would be very mindful of a man that is not giving you the amount of sex like you would imagine a man to have. Be mindful. I don't mean to put any paranoia in your mind, but having worked with so many men all these years, the primary kind of thing that upsets, like their form of appreciation and love, they kind of want that first. They feel loved through that, and then they're a bit more happy to help you, happy to do. They're a bit more compassionate. It kind of is the route to accessing other kind of good qualities. But if he's not doing that, and you have a husband that's a bit asexual, either, I know it sounds horrible, but ask yourself, is he still attracted to you? And that's not your fault. Maybe you've changed a lot, or maybe you haven't changed and he's just, but if you haven't changed a lot and he's not doing that, is there any chance he could be outsourcing him? It doesn't mean another woman. It could just be pornography. But is there any chance he's outsourcing it? And if you are a man that's outsourcing it, it's not fair on your partner. It's really not fair on your partner.
Another consideration too is just the genuine levels of someone's testosterone. As a man, I think it's somewhere around like the average 20-year-old has less testosterone than a man in his 50s, just a couple of decades back.
Is that what it's gone down
to?
It's
horrible.
So
it's
do you
atrocious.
think the younger generation, the men, will be less kind of like...
it's a fact that the testosterone of young males has
gone down that much?
Plummeted significantly.
So do you think they're more likely to be faithful?
I guess, I don't know about the correlation in terms of testosterone levels and faithfulness, but I would just say in general, like connection to their primal self, sex drive, ability to put on muscle, a lot of these things that help a man create a healthy self-esteem and identity is more difficult when those, when you have so many toxic chemicals and exposure.
Is there something that's causing that decrease in testosterone?
From my understanding, it's an amalgamation of many different factors, including the toxic chemicals and heavy metals that we're exposed to in our water and our food supply, the nutrition density of our food, the overexposure to blue light and lack of healthy sunlight in the morning and throughout the day.
All of that affects testosterone that much?
Oh yeah, huge. Yeah,
wow.
Crazy.
So even keeping your phone in your pocket and stuff like that can
especially near your balls for a guy, you can really sap testosterone. It's just pulling us away from our biological evolution too. You think about like what would like a hunter-gatherer ancestor kind of live in terms of their connection to nature, in terms of their exposure of sunlight, all these things. I mean, that's just going to inform so much.
So
too.
do you think then what I said about men that need that, do you think that's not necessarily applicable to the younger generation?
I think there's an aspect of that too, but I just think that it's not just young men, but also society at large is like we've normalized things that are really toxic and poisonous for our well-being. And then we try to figure out all these other remedies that really could be fixed, like we were speaking to earlier, by some simple, changes that nature would provide and that we've evolved to have.
That's tough on it, guys, if that's what's happening, because it's not a choice. It's like kind of just the way the world's conditioned them.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing also on a flip side that I feel like is happening with women and their disconnection to their cycles and like having
and infertility is higher than ever and stuff like that. So it is. I guess we're both becoming compatibly incompatible.
It's real.
Sadly.
Yeah. Okay. So is another thing outside of sex that you feel like?
Appreciation. Yeah, I would say this is a really important trait for men.
Men want to feel appreciated.
I've been a bit jaded and I'm like, oh, they just want sex, because I tend to see that side of men. But really,
do you think you're getting a skewed a pool of who you're working with?
Super skewed. Can you not tell? Super skewed. But I would say even the ones...
Wait, just because you're working in Dubai, you feel like you're working with a lot of those clients? Okay.
Yeah, working in Dubai, working with wealthier kind of men and working globally and all this stuff. And my content appeals to only a certain type of man. Sure. Not every man can relate to it. So it gives me a very skewed perception. But what I would say slightly more universal is when men, even when they are outsourcing sexually, I would still say they're outsourcing desire and appreciation. I think they really, really, really require appreciation as almost like a driving force, as a motivator to do other things. How they might receive appreciation is different for each guy. Some men might want it verbally. Some might feel appreciated when there's acts of service like food or like, basic kind of what nowadays might be seen as primitive, but it's just, they just feel loved in that way. It's just how they do. Or some men might feel appreciated by physical touch. But I do think a lack of appreciation is like a slow suicide for a lot of men. They start to think, why am I doing this? Because we as women are very good at creating social connections. So mostly our work or something gets complemented by several people, whether it's our parents, whether it's our friends, whether it's our hairdressers. We receive affirmations quite regularly. Men are quite deprived of that. With their friends, it's not really as much. With their, they don't walk down the street and get as much validation. So when they get deprived of that, even in their home, they start to lose motivation. So I say appreciation is quite an important trait for men. Would you say there's anything in particular that men, if you would give women advice on, because I don't want to speak on your behalf, but if you were to give women advice about the men, what would you say is something that they don't always realize?
I really agree with that appreciation. I think that for men, I'd love to get your perspective on this, but I do think that women really appreciate like healthy ownership. Like from a man, that in this boss babe psychology would push against, like I don't need to be owned by a man, but there's like a healthy level of ownership.
They do like it.
When there's a devotion, reverence to the feminine, then you want to protect it, you want to take care for it, and there's a great joy in being a provider as a man. Of course, I'm speaking more generally in traditional kind of male, female,
And not being exploited, but providing because you're being a provider, not because you're being exploited. Yeah.
Yeah. I think men, we just really enjoy being needed and being acknowledged for the fact that we're providing. And the dilution or dissolution of our own like masculine energy as men, and then also within women and their own femininity, I think is like decreasing that polarity, which
we're becoming a bit androgynous, both men and women.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe that's great. I don't know. But it is like we're skewing, removing femininities from women and masculinity from men.
Becoming incompatible or whatever you said.
I don't know what's happening to us. It'd be an interesting social experiment when like AI come and all this stuff. So it's horrible, isn't it? Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's a separate tangent.
Yeah.
But I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I think that there's like that level of healthy ownership where a man wants to, like, when a woman lets a man be a man and appreciates it and rewards it and doesn't try to be a man for him. And
yeah, because like I was online the other day and I saw some woman saying, "Oh my God, she is a male sympathizer," and I thought, what does a male sympathizer mean? Is like having sympathy for men, is that a bad thing? And she said it like that, like it's the grossest thing in the world. And I just thought, are we supposed to, well, are we not supposed to sympathize with them? Why are we not supposed to sympathize? It's almost like a lack of appreciation for men has become the norm, and it has become the standard, and a lack of appreciation of what they go through. And even things like when it comes to cheating, when a male cheats, it's almost straight away narcissist. He's a narcissist. But when a woman cheats, there's still a level of empathy women have towards other women when they cheat and be like, yeah, but he wasn't really doing this for you and he wasn't doing that for you. There's so many excuses made in that moment. So I just think that the lack of appreciation has become the cultural norm, and I don't think it's necessarily healthy for their mental health.
yeah, I agree. I think there's so much like fatherlessness is a real epidemic. The lack of ritual initiation and like real fatherhood, I think
And they learn about men through the lens of a woman when there's no father. And sometimes the woman, especially if she's been scorned by the father, can have a negative perception. So that it creates a disconnection from their own masculinity and a disconnection from other men. They almost feel safer without the other men, but then that chips away at their masculinity again. So it's very difficult for them. It's very difficult.
And the cycle continues.
And the cycle continues. Oh, sorry, that sounds very like the world's over. Like you're going to hate your life. It's not like that. I'm just saying worst case scenarios, this can happen.
Cool. All right. I'm just curious, is there anything else you want to share with our audience as to the, important ingredients there?
I would just say, look, just because you feel something doesn't mean you have to do it. You might feel angry, doesn't mean you have to go and scream and shout. You might feel like sexual and you might want to go try something. Just because you feel it doesn't mean you do it. I think there is a culture of kind of just, giving to your desires. Try and remember your desires are sometimes self-sabotaging. Desires are not indicators of behavior. They're not directions. They're not instructions. They are just passing emotions. Sometimes desires can kind of hijack your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. If you can get a handle over your desires, whether it comes to food, whether it's exercise, whether it's opposite gender, when it comes to money, if you can handle your desires, you really are like breaking the tie with the devil. It's really going to help you. But if you succumb to your desires the moment you experience them, unfortunately, you're going to become a prisoner to your lusts and your hedonistic desires. So if you can capture your desires young and you can really work on minimizing the impact of your desires and your decision making, you'll have a lot more success in your life.
Oh, yeah. I think I will just add that there is like an ideal scenario is kind of merging our will or desires with sort of like a desire, the divine desire or divine will, where what you want is what life wants for you.